Hello, everyone. It is June 20th, 2018, and we've had quite a week, I would say, since last Wednesday. A lot has happened since you saw me sitting on my throne, which looked to be a throne. It was actually, I was sitting on my bed up at the condo that my parents were staying at in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Who's going to be first to get? There's Janet. First. Janet, you are first. So proud of you. Great to see you tonight, Janet. Great to see you. And Kelly and Angel. Angel, your question is getting answered first tonight, as promised. Kelly, good seeing you too. Kelly, you should know that I'm going to be coming up to Pennsylvania middle of July and staying for a month. So I'm going to be there. Sherry, good to see you. Sarah has a book in the mail that I'm not sure she got it yet, though. MJ, hope you're doing well, Sarah. Good to see you. I'm going to let everybody get in here and say hi to some people before I continue. Trina, I'm going to answer a couple of your questions tonight. You had a couple good ones that I really want to cover. Jillian, I haven't seen your name before, Jillian. Welcome. Kelly, good to see you. And MJ, Amy, Pennsylvania, Angel in Pennsylvania. Also, where at, Angel? Where are you from in Pennsylvania? Sarah, you're probably all right. Probably tomorrow because it went on Monday. Probably so, being that it had to go to California. Yep. Stephanie, it's like a sorority. I guess you could say that. Michelle, good to see you. I don't know how often you tune into the Wednesday Night Live program, but Michelle, it's good to see you. Sister of Nikki McCown. Trina says, hi, I'm finally able to make the beginning. Well, I appreciate that. Thanks. And Karen, and yes, hi back, Michelle. Thank you. And Dee Dee, I got a couple people in here with the Superwomen logo, and there's Dee Dee with her, I guess you would call it, comic book Wonder Woman. Grand Rapids, Michigan. I don't think I've ever been there. Been to Michigan, though. In April. All right, so a lot of people getting in tonight. That's awesome. Thank you. As I was saying, it has been a week for the ages. So many interesting things that have happened. Of course, the last time you saw me, I was up in Hilton Head, sitting on what looked to be a throne, which I look back at it now, and that's really funny. That is good humor right there. Angie, welcome. I was sitting on my bed is what that actually was. But I drove back here on Saturday. Great drive. Just turned the tunes up. No problem. No traffic. Whereas my mom and dad had a lot of traffic going back to Pennsylvania. And Tamron from South Carolina was just there. And but a lot has gone on. A lot. I'm going to say that the case that was covered this last Friday was a landmark case for Unfound. I really believe that. We had a lot of people who, even before the episode came out, a lot of people from the northern, if you want to just say northern Texas area, come and join in the group. I think that I'm going to guess that we had about 120 people join the discussion group since last Wednesday in a week, which is a little crazy. I mean, there's already 2,600 people in there, but to get 120 in a week is crazy. That episode really resonated in that area, and probably because of the video that we talked about, because of the case, because of the subject matter. I think it also helped that I ended up doing an interview on Friday morning, live interview on Friday morning for KXDJ up there that I think also brought attention to the discussion group, to the podcast, to the page. And I think a lot of people heard that and wanted to see what the podcast was about. Hello, Ann. Lavonda, good to see you. So that episode, I guess you'd have to say the first episode that Unfound ever did was a landmark episode. I think the episode that I did on the Marco Island 3, because it was a two-parter, was a landmark one. I think that right around the time of, I think that the Chip Campbell case was a landmark one, really because the week before that, the very popular podcast, Generation Y, mentioned Unfound on its program, and that brought a lot of new listeners. So, I can look at things as I look back and say, there was obviously every case is important, but there seem to be ones that bring more people to the episode, to the program, for whatever reason. And of course, the audience is building every week, but I just look back at some of these and say, that was an important week in Unfound's history. This, thank you, Sarah. That's very nice of you to say. Great show last week. Thank you. Joyce, great to see you. So there have been a few of those, and this last Friday was one. It was just a culmination. It was just a lot of things coming together. And I worked really hard with Penny on that episode. Of course, she sent me that video, and that video has gotten a lot of attention. You go to YouTube, and I really don't talk about the YouTube channel for Unfound. Hardly at all. I mention it every episode, but that's about it. Those videos combined, those 4 videos that I posted last week combined, now have, I think, over 5,000 views. Not each, but all combined. And then the interview I did with the radio show, I think, also has an additional 1,000 since Friday, which, once again, not a lot compared to, of course, a lot of videos on YouTube. But being that I hardly ever talk about the YouTube channel, that is considerable. So that's also something, that really happened this last week. Stacy, thank you. Angela, good to see you. Lori, good to see you as well. I'm waving right back at you. So it was a big week. And as you know, as I say with every episode, I'm going to continue to work with Penny in any capacity that I can. You should know that I continue to look at that video. And there's even a couple things that I discovered since then. Nothing I would say, and I really can't go on the record with it, nothing as earth-shattering as seeing those sheriff's vehicles at 11:42 that night. But just a couple other things that caught my eye. So, and I've passed those on to Penny. And there's Andrea. It was great hearing from you today, Andrea, the private message. Thank you. It was good to hear from you. And there's Tara, Leechburg native, Tara and Ashley. A lot of people tuning in tonight. Once again, I think this is an indication of what is going on this past week. And then on top of that, you add that just today, Unfound became the #1 podcast on Podomatic. Of course, I've posted about that, and that's very exciting. But then there's also been some other things that haven't been so good, mainly that I know a lot of you had problems downloading the Thomas Brown episode, and you should know that that's not your fault. It's not. I guess it's not my fault either. iTunes requested that Podomatic change the kind of feed that it was getting from Podomatic. And so Podomatic had to do that on the fly, and they had issues doing that. I'm thinking that by Friday, this coming Friday, for our next episode, it's going to be okay. But I saw the statistics. They were so whacked. That first of all, the beginning of last week, the downloads were way, way, way above probably what they were. And then by the end of the week, they were a lot lower than they should have been, because the Thomas Brown episode, very popular. But I think everything is now evening out. What it has been good, at least for Podomatic, is I think now a lot more people have their player on their phone. And I will tell any of you, if you ever have problems with iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, any of those second level, and I say that in relation to the RSS feed, if you ever have any problems with those, just go get the Podomatic app. The show will always play on there, because that is where the file is. Everybody else is getting a feed from Podomatic, but Podomatic is where the file actually is, so there shouldn't be any issues with an RSS feed. So once again, from now on, you ever have an issue, just get the Podomatic app, and that should fix it. But I don't anticipate any problems in the future. Shuri says you can't stop looking at the video. I know the feeling, Shuri. And Vicky Wilkerson, good to see you tonight, the mother of Jennifer Wilkerson. I wish I could say more, people, but there's some things going on in Jennifer Wilkerson's case, too. Can't say anything, but it's good to see Vicky here tonight. And Jessica, welcome. So we had a lot of great stuff, a very popular episode, did a lot of good work. We've certainly moved the ball forward in the Thomas Brown disappearance. Of course, you know I think my beliefs regarding that case, and I think that they mirror Penny's, the guest who was on for the episode. And then we had some bad things. Of course, we had a download issue, but we came number 1 on Podomatic. The other funny thing, I guess, is a funny story. Sherry says, I ended up listening on both iTunes app and Podomatic. Okay, great, Sherry. Thank you. And Sherry says, looks like 1,000 people were added in just a week. It's not quite that many, but it's quite a few in the group. Quite a few. I mean, like I said, I can't tell you how many people I approved to come and get into the group whose location was in northern Texas, Hemphill County, Lipscomb County, that area. Many. And it's a variety of reasons. But the other thing that was funny is that if you don't know, I went to college at Grove City College. And ever since I got out of there, I've gotten their alumni magazine. And they post at the back of the magazine, they go year by year, just people within each class doing significant things. For the first time in 25 years, I made it into the alumni magazine. In fact, right before I started this show tonight, I posted that picture. No, I had no idea. When I opened up the magazine, just was going through it, went to the back, and there was my name. I had no idea that was happening. 0. So that was kind of cool. I really had no aspirations to ever be in there. I think some of my friends from college have been in there. But there I was. I don't know who submitted me to that, but it was great seeing it. I had a real good laugh about that. That was a little startling, and I thank you. So things that have gone on since, let me look at here, the radio interview. There was an article in CanadianRecord.com. I urge you to go to CanadianRecord.com to read the article that they wrote about the Thomas Brown case and the interview that I did with Laurie at the Canadian Record. Lots of conversations. I've gotten a lot of private messages from people in Canadian since last Friday. Many. Very, very supportive. And if anybody from that area of Texas is watching tonight, I deeply appreciate the messages. Thank you. I deeply appreciate it. Landmark episode, all the new members in the group, and then the download issues. Okay, I got all the intro stuff out of the way. So then I'm going to go to a question. I'm answering this question first because Angel, I know she's in here, she wanted to really watch tonight, so she took a nap to make sure that she would be up at this time to watch the show. That is dedication. And I told her because of that, I'm going to answer her question first. And the question was, is there a case out there that I would like to cover that I haven't covered yet? The answer is yes. But because she's so, and I would try to avoid being very specific because you know how I feel about all these cases. They're all important. There are probably 2. I can't narrow it down to one, but probably 2. I would say, and this case has come up before on the show, the disappearances of Angela Westbury. In fact, I was even talking to somebody this past week about this case. Angela Westbury and Teresa Hickman, who disappeared in Florida in 1984. They disappeared from the Jacksonville area. Went out on a boat, never came back. Were out there with 2 men and disappeared. That's a case that's been on my mind for a long time, and I hope to one of these days get enough information to do that case. And I have talked to Angela Westbury's 2 of her sisters within the last probably year and a half about that. So that's one. The other one is one from my home area of Leechburg, Pennsylvania, and that is the disappearance of Sherry Mahan, who disappeared, a young girl who disappeared from Butler County in 1985. And that's one I think that eventually I'm going to cover. That will probably happen before the Teresa Hickman and Angela Westbury case. So that would be the other one. Jeremiah, good to see you tonight with the thumbs up. Jeremiah, great to see you. Brandon Lawson, Shuri, it's not high on my list. It's just not. It's just not. It's gotten a lot of coverage, and of course, if they want to talk, I'm ready to talk. But it's not high on my list. I wouldn't say it's on my wish list, if you would say, if you could put it that way. But Sherry Mahan is one that I hope to cover, hopefully this year. Hopefully. If not me, maybe I will cover it in conjunction with TribLive.com, of course, the newspaper I work with in the Pittsburgh area. Maybe we can make that happen before the end of the year. I think that would be really good. Andrea says, Joan Risch is my all-time curious case. I really want to know what happened to her. Andrea, I have to say that I'm not familiar with that case. I will have to look that one up. But Angel, that is my answer. You can look up Angela Westbury and Teresa Hickman. Both of their profiles are on charlieproject.org if you're not familiar with those cases, and for anybody else. And then Sherry Mahan is, I believe, also on Charlie Project. And that was a case, once again, I was 15 when that happened. I think, how old was Sherry when she disappeared? I think 9. And that disappearance happened about a half hour away from where I lived. And it's something that's still unsolved. And I think there's a lot more digging that needs to be done in that case. I really believe that. And I think that's one of those cases, if I were to get involved in it, I would find out a lot more than is on the public record, I think. Yeah, Angel, please do. April, great seeing you tonight. Tara, she was 9. Thank you. Tara is also from Leechburg, and we're just going to keep what we know between us, Tara. I don't want to put you too much in the public eye, but Tara's also from Leechburg, so she is also familiar with that case, as is her husband. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So that's the answer to that question. Let's go to another question, and I thought that maybe I should explain this. Maybe this isn't clear to all of you, and I don't talk about myself too much, and it comes up if somebody asks me, and I think I can answer the question, I do. But I think maybe if Shuri, you were in, I know you're in here, you asked me a question about why is it sometimes that I say that I have a brother and a sister, but then I say that I'm an only child. And I'm sorry if anybody has ever been confused by that. It's like, can't Ed keep his family story straight? Well, here's the story. Okay, here's the story. And Shatana says she has lots of thoughts about the Jamie Bowen case. Chintana, I'd love to hear them. If you want to message me privately or you want to talk about it in the group, make it happen. Totally up to you. Jimmy, great to see you tonight. Here's the story. I am adopted. I was given up for adoption when I was born on August 1st, 1970. I was adopted a month later on September 1st, 1970. So you're going to calculate real quick how old I am. I'll just tell you. On August 1st this year, I'm going to be 48. I was given up for adoption. And I was raised as an only child by my parents, Ed and Loretta Dentzel. They are the same parents that I just went to see up in South Carolina. They are my parents, okay? There is no question. They raised me. I love them. They love me. We are very tight, me and my parents, even though when we get together, we love to bicker at each other. But they are my parents, and I was raised as an only child. But I also have a biological family, of course, who gave me up for adoption, and I won't get into those reasons. Not important. Or they are important, but not for public discourse. But I always knew that I was adopted. But I really, unlike I think most children who find out they're adopted, I never really had an interest in I figured out, you know what, my biological parents, they gave me up for adoption. There's probably some good reason they did it. That's good enough for me. once again, I understand that it's very unlike most kids who are given up for adoption, who know they're adopted. I know that I was in the minority regarding that. And I've known other adopted kids who went looking for their biological families. That was never going to happen for me. I can say that. But then in 1994, in April of 1994, I ended up getting a message from Catholic Charities. I got a letter saying that my biological family was looking for me. I was given up. That's where I was given up for adoption in 1970 to Catholic Charities, because my biological family was Catholic, and at least my mother is Catholic. So I ended up finding out that I had two brothers and a sister who are quite a bit older than I am, and at least their first names were Michael, Brian, and Diane. And we ended up meeting over the course of time. I ended up meeting my biological parents. Their names are John and Suzanne. And wasn't before long, within like a year or something like that we are all, my parents, Ed and Loretta Dentzel, could not have been more excited about this. And I will say this now, and I don't think that I would be offending any of my biological family by saying this, that I sometimes think back about it. I think that they were more excited about it than I was. And it was great. It was great. But I know that's probably some parents who have adopted kids, when they find out about the biological family, want to get involved again. They're very protective. They're very defensive. My parents were not one, even one of 1%. They were very excited for me. And so ever since then, I think that we've been one big happy family. Now, you should know that my biological parents got divorced a couple years after I was given up for adoption. My biological father ended up getting married again. My biological mother did not. But I got to meet them. My biological of, throat cancer, stomach cancer in 2002. And then, as some of you know, I think that you know that my biological mother, who I knew very well, her name was Suzanne, she died from cancer, essentially starting as bladder cancer, in March of this year. And that's when I drove up, went to the funeral. And so my biological parents are now deceased. But that's the story. And you should know that when I lived in Las Vegas, it was not unusual for my mother, Loretta Dentzel, and my biological mother, Suzanne, to come out together to Las Vegas to see me. Now, it just so happened that my brother Brian was living in the area at the time as well. But they would come out together. They would go on trips together. They would come to Las Vegas together. Did they go on a cruise together? I'm not sure about that. But they used to go places together all the time. So it was like Ed has two moms. And that was good, because my dad never really cared for Las Vegas too much. So he loved it that my mother had a traveling companion. So I was very close to, I knew my biological father, but not as well as my biological mother. And I would call her once in a while and would talk on the phone and stuff. But, she died. She lived to be, I think she was, 88 when she died. And to the very end, she had her mind. She was very sharp, very, very sharp woman, very independent woman. After she got divorced, she had a job. She took care of herself, the whole way up until she retired, I think in the early 90s. Very great woman. I was very, very great, very happy to know her. In knowing her and my biological father, I now see some of the reasons that I act the way I do, that maybe not, it's one of those things, once again, the difference between nature and nurture. And I surely have a lot of qualities of my parents too, but you get to see what those things are environmental and those things are genetic. And really, sometimes you can't guess which is which. You'd probably be very surprised. So, Shuri, that's the story. And I have a brother that lives very close to me. up here in Largo, about 15 minutes away. My sister Diane lives in Canfield and Ohio, and my brother Michael lives in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we're all very close. We're all very close. And my brother Brian has two kids, a son and a daughter, and then his daughter has a daughter. So I'm an uncle and a great uncle. And my sister has a son, and her son has two sons. So I'm over there. So I'm an uncle, and I'm a great uncle, and my sister's son, I think he's going to be 40 this year. So I'm 47, and I have a nephew who's going to be 40 this year. So there you go. So there you go, Shuri, and anybody else. If you're ever wondering why I say I was raised in an only child, and then I say I have brothers and sister, that's why. I've had them both. And it's almost kind of split now, being that I'm 48. 24 years of being an only child, 24 years of knowing about a brothers and a sister. Go figure. Sherry, you're from Canfield area too, are you? I know that area very well. Been to my sister's many, many times. What do I want to cover next? Man, that was a long question that I had to answer. Let's take something else. Trina, I know you're in here tonight. Trina asked me, it's a combination of, if I have another job, and that what does my family think about what I do? I don't have another job. This Unfound is my job. It is my job. And I get paid a variety of ways. Of course, there's the generous Patreon and PayPal people. I have an agreement, of course, with triblive.com in Pennsylvania that, working for them. I'm an independent contractor with them. Of course, sales of T-shirts and books and everything else. This is a business. I don't necessarily like to think of it that way. This is certainly an investigative business. I don't have a private investigator's license or anything like that. I've never been in law enforcement. Probably wouldn't have been very good at that for a variety of reasons, mainly wearing the uniform, etc. But this is what I do. This is what I do. If anybody ever wonders why, how does Ed get all these things done? The books and watching videos and all these things. That's how I get it done. And I put a lot of work into this. This is not a 9-to-5 job. This is, as my parents find out every time they see me, especially when I was up in Hilton Head, even with them, I have to work. That's just the way it is. I often tell them when they give me a problem about all the work that I put into this, it's that you can have one of two ways. Either your son can be the host of a very popular missing persons program where he's helping people, trying to solve cases, getting the word out. You can either have that, or I can go be a greeter at Walmart. Okay? You're going to have to pick one. That's just the way it is. As any independent business owner knows, whether it's building houses or doing podcasts or anything like that, it takes a lot of time, and you really have to be into it. And I'm really into this. I think that any of the guests will tell you that behind the scenes, when I talk to them, I am the same person as I am when I do this show. Okay? That's what I think it takes to do this program right. Trina says, all the work you do would be difficult with another position. I agree, Trina. Totally true. Stacy, thanks for answering this. Was curious how you found time for this. And it helps. I mean, it helps. I'm a single guy. I don't have any kids. I control my expenses. I don't have any credit card debt. So I live very simply. I'm kind of a simple kind of guy anyway. I'm not into big things and fancy things. And if my mother hadn't come down and decorated my apartment down here in Madeira Beach, I don't know if it would be decorated. It's just the kind of guy that I am. I am a bachelor. That's who I am. But As far as what my parents think, I think that's probably what I just answered. I'm sure like any parent out there who has visions about what their child is going to be, I went in almost the opposite direction of probably what my parents wanted. So they just have to live with it. And I've been very independent. I moved out to Las Vegas. I moved 2,300 miles away when I was 27 years old, lived out there. And there was a reason that I needed, at that time, looking back at it now, I needed to grow up. I knew that. So even at 27 years old, I can look back at being 47 now and said that was the right thing to do. In fact, I should have done it much earlier. So I think my parents like what I do. I think they just wish I wouldn't put so much time in it. So when they were around, I would have more time for them. Just being honest. But things just need to be done. And it certainly helps when they see that the program's so popular. They see all of the congratulations I get specifically from my guests and their families. That certainly, I think, smooths over some of the things that more time they wish I had when I was around them. But that's just the way it is. And, and thing is, I come from a family, my mother's side at least, where they were independent business. My family, my mother's side of the family, they owned a car dealership, a fairly big one at one time. So, kind of know all about running your own business and knowing that, if you're not doing your work, it's not getting done. So I think that's how I am going to answer that, Trina. I hope that is clear. Sarah says, this is like having a wife, takes all your attention. I wouldn't know, Sarah. I've never been married. Thank you, Kimberly. It's nice of you to say something to be proud of. Thank you very much. If your child is happy, then the parents are happy. Kind of, Sherry. Not totally, but kind of. And then Shantana said, what was the hardest case you've dealt with that you've covered? I don't like to pick that, Shantana, when it comes to the cases that I've covered, I don't like to pick them out that way. It's a fine question. Fine question. I'm not saying it's not. I just really don't like to pick certain cases out in that kind of form. I just don't like to do that. That's right, Tara. Thank you. Let's just get, by the way, I'm wearing an Unfound shirt tonight. We're just talking about shirts and things. Unfound shirt. There you go. Got some books here. Volume 1. Volume 2. Right there was, where's Volume 3? I know I saw it around here. There it is. Volume 3. Go to Amazon for anybody new who's watching tonight, especially a lot of those Texas people. You can find them on Amazon, download them if you have an ebook, or you can buy the print edition. If you'd like a print edition signed by me, and I know a lot of people in this group, I recognize the names. A lot of them have gotten books signed by me, print editions. You can contact me personally, and I will send you one of these books signed by me. Same price as on Amazon, and plus the shipping. So there's that. Of course, I already mentioned the PayPal and Patreon accounts. The people who are so generous, I cannot even begin to explain it. It's you people who make me providing shirts and books and things for the guests. You are the people who make that happen. All right? You make it happen, and I deeply appreciate it. Book 4, working on it. What can I say? I'll just keep saying that. Melody, good to see you tonight. I'm not sure if I've seen your name before, but if this is your first time at a live show, I deeply appreciate you taking time tonight. Thank you. The cards are super cool. Thank you, Sherry. I need to work on them a little bit. There's more work that needs to be done, but thank you. Anna, this is like Unsolved Mysteries, but better. Okay, that's fun. That's funny, Anna. Thank you. Stacy, good to see you tonight. Anna, what's the books called again? They are the Unfound Season 1 cases. This happens to be Volume 1 of 6. This is Volume 2 of 6. Anna, can you see that? Video's a little choppy tonight. And this is Volume 3 that just came out maybe a month and a half ago. Volume 3. If you do a search on Amazon, you just have to do a search for Denzel and Unfound, and the books should pop up, Anna. They should. And they've sold pretty well. Pretty well. For me, being an unknown author, I've been very pleased with how the books have sold. I know the people like them. Gotten a lot of compliments on them, some nice reviews. But for those of you who have bought Volume 2, still need some good reviews out there. All right, so if you have Volume 2 and you've gotten it from Amazon, let's get some reviews on there if you could. Thank you. So there you go. Books, shirts, Patreon, and the playing cards. Shuri has gotten some of the cards some other people have as well. I think that they're pretty neat as well. That was one of my first ideas going way back. Melody says, hi, first time I'm not working on Wednesday night and get to watch live. Melody, thank you for taking the time. I deeply appreciate it. Thank you. Beth, Angel, I'd buy a muck. Great idea. Working on it. Once again, lots of things working on. One-man show. Let's see if I can answer another question. Got to the adoption question, Trina's question, Angel's questions. Oh, I have another question also from Shuri. A couple people are manipulating the questions tonight, which is perfectly fine. Shuri asked me if do I listen to any other podcasts? What do I do when I'm not working on Unfound, when I'm just chilling out? I don't have a lot of chill time, but I will tell you that I don't listen to hardly any other true crime podcasts. I will if it's a case that I'm going to be covering that another program has already done it. For example, Case File did the Thomas Brown case coincidentally just a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I listened to that. Crime Watch Daily covered Thomas Brown's case. I watched that on YouTube. And I've had that happen before. I think last year when I did the Chip Campbell case, I listened to the Chip Campbell case, the version that The Vanish did with Marissa. I did that. Other than that, though, when I'm not doing Unfound, I try to get away from true crime stuff. I do. I think that I just need, some outlets. So as a lot of you know, I go play disc golf. But as far as actually listening and watching things, here's what I do. Janet, and by good review, he means 5 stars. Well, if you want to be so explicit, Janet, yes. I've listened to so many, I have to write a sticky note where I stop. Shintana says, at least Sherry and I are loyal. Yes, you're loyal, Angela. Thank you. Angel, thank you. Kimberly, Thomas Brown case. Wow. Thank you, Kimberly. So what do I listen to? A lot of you know that I listen to a lot of Iron Maiden and Def Leppard and AC/DC. I play that a lot when I'm doing Unfound work. I listen to that when I'm in the car, like driving to South Carolina and back. I also watch a lot of interviews. I think that me as an interviewer, I still have a lot to learn about. There's my phone ringing. Who's calling? Can't answer that. I think as an interviewer, I can still get better. So let me turn this down. Okay, I think that's the first time in a while the phone's rang since I've been doing the show. I think as an interviewer, I have to get better. So I watch all kinds of interviews on any kind of topic. I will even watch old Johnny Carson interviews. I will watch Jimmy Fallon interviews. I will watch Charlie Rose interviews. I will listen to interviews if I can't find a video of them. Being that Unfound is essentially an interview program, I think that I need to get better at interviewing. Listening better, asking better questions, better use of my voice, better use of the English language. So I will watch interviews with basically anybody, from rock stars to actors to business owners, famous business owners. That's what I do a lot in my free time. because that interests me, and I think that it helps me make Unfound better. Me being a better host. I've watched Dick Cavett interviews. That's going way back. Jay Leno interviews. You name it. That's what I do. I love to watch documentaries on World War II. I especially love anything having to do with the Battle of Midway for some reason. When it comes to any sort of other entertainment, I love watching old Columbo episodes and old episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Voyager. I'm a geek. I'm a little bit of a geek when it comes to that, a Trekkie guy. So that's what I do when I'm not working on Unfound. I find that if I were to listen to other programs and everything, I think that everybody needs a break from anything they do, even if they really, really like it. And I guess I would compare it to, I love chocolate. I love chocolate. But that doesn't mean that I, want chocolate ice cream with a chocolate milk and then chocolate sprinkles and chocolate syrup and then a Hershey candy bar on the side. You know what I mean? So I think all of us at one time or another, we need to take a break and do some other things. So I just don't listen. And that is no disrespect to any other program out there. Okay, that is not. It's just the way I handle things. And I only have so many hours and things that I can do. So I hope that answers the question, Shuri. Becca, I've tried. Ed's tried to help me, but I can't get it to work on my phone for some reason. Becca, need to take time and watch the Brown case. I did today. Well, follow it from the start because I'm from Canadian. Becca, are you still having problems? I don't like hearing that, Becca. I that sucks. Ed's tried to help me, but I can't get it to work on my phones for some reason. Huh. Well, Becca, you contact me privately after the program, and let's see what we can do about that. Okay, Becca, you contact me personally after the show on Messenger, and we're going to make this happen. One way or another, we're going to make this happen because I know you've been in the group for a long time. I know you listened to Unfound for a long time. I don't like hearing that you haven't been able to listen to the episode yet. You contact me after we're done here, and we're going to make it happen one way or another. Just a little piece of news that I want to cover. Did you happen to see that there was a little article about Mikhail Biggs out there? It was on Google News, so I would call that national news. And it had to do with this dollar bill that was from 2009. I had a chance to talk to Mikhail's sister about it. Of course, Kimber was on the episode. And I'm not sure what to make of it. I'm going to guess that it's probably some kind of hoax. If you don't know, somebody found a dollar bill. I think it was in Wisconsin. And what was written on it was, "My name is Mikhail Biggs, kidnapped from Mesa, Arizona. I'm alive." And I think the issue that I personally have with it is that I think that the dollar bill, every dollar bill or any coin, even coins, have the year in which they were printed on it. This dollar bill, to my understanding, was printed in 2009. So this would be like 10 years after Mikhail disappeared. I will tell you this. If this was a dollar bill that was found around like in 1999, the same year that she was disappeared, or the bill was printed in 1999, then I would have a lot more confidence that this might be something. But being that it's 2009, the bill was printed in 2009, I'm going to say this is a hoax. And I think that Kimber knows that, and I'm not here to speak for Kimber. But I'm not sure that there's much that can be gained from that. I just don't know what to say about it, other than I think that it's a hoax. Shantana say you saw that. Sherry, good to see you. Sarah agrees. Sherry, I saw that, but from Life 5 years ago. Yes, I think this is a story that's been out there, and I'm trying to. I have to admit, when I saw the story, it was like, how did we miss talking about that during the interview? And that's still something I haven't quite figured it out. And that's my fault. That's not Kimber's fault. That's my fault. Angel, that happened in another case. I can't think which one. Carrie, that would be horrible if it was a hoax. Carrie, I can't even begin to tell you how many hoaxes pop up in all these disappearances. I just cannot even begin to explain how many things I hear about behind the scenes regarding hoaxes, families trying to be fooled. It happens, and it's probably even more so now with social media out there. Pamela, great to see you tonight. Yep, Angel, sad hoaxes happen way too much. So I wanted to, if any of you saw that and wonder, I was going to talk about that last week, but we had so much to talk about with the Thomas Brown case that I just didn't get to it. But I certainly wanted to mention it this week because I knew it was national news and it was a case that Unfound covered. Couple more things that I absolutely have to get to before the show's over, and then I'll take maybe one of your questions. Being that this is going to be the last Sunday of the month, you'll be finding another TribLive.com article this coming Sunday. I worked with Stephen on this one. This is one that actually I had talked to the wife of this guy who disappeared a few months ago, and then finally Stephen was able to put it on the schedule. And he put it on the schedule for June. It's the disappearance of Robert Allison in Pittsburgh, in downtown Pittsburgh, in 1994, December 1994. This is an interesting case because I have to admit that from what his wife said, that there might have been a little bit of a cover-up in this one. Once again, you read the article, you can judge it for yourself. But he was living in Waynesburg. He worked on the docks, on a tugboat, on the river in Pittsburgh. If you don't know, Pittsburgh has three rivers, the Allegheny and the Monongahela, and they turn into, in Pittsburgh, the Ohio River. He worked on the river, working on barges, and he disappeared during lunch one day. The weird thing is that most of his stuff was left at work. He allegedly left at lunch and walked off, but he seemingly left a lot of things that you would usually take to lunch there. So it's either he walked off and maybe let's put it this way. He had a history of depression, so that has to be figured in there. But the other issue is that it's possible. Doing that job is very dangerous. And did something happen at work, and did that company cover it up? Because I can tell you, at the time, there wasn't a lot of coverage of his disappearance at all. At all. And I think that the story's changed from originally when he disappeared, then later. So I have to tell you that I'm not sure. In the company they worked for doesn't exist, or it was sold, and now it's been sold like twice since then. So the owners of the company aren't the ones who were running it back then. Of course, a lot of the guys that he would have been working with, have retired or died or whatever. So what I'm hoping for is that if this case comes out, when this case comes out, when the article comes out, that maybe somebody remembers him and can remember back to that time and shed a little bit more light on what actually happened that day, because the details aren't complete, and it leaves us open to speculation. But I have to tell you that his wife was thinking that there was something fishy that went on at work that day. Once again, his name's Robert Allison. He disappeared right in downtown Pittsburgh on December 21st, I think it was, 1994. So I'll be linking to that this weekend. Of course, the other thing I do every Unfound live show is preview the next case. And this is one that I've been working on for a while. And this is a case. Welcome, Claudia. Let's just get through these. Claudia, welcome tonight. Thanks for tuning in. No, I did not leave it out because there wasn't any truth to it. No, that's surely something I should have talked about. Yeah, Carrie, I agree. I'm helping a cousin with a missing friend. Number 11, cover-up / police involvement. I'm not sure what that means, Jerry. Number 11. Okay. But this week's case is the disappearance of Amanda Fravel in Las Vegas in 1986. So we're going back quite a ways, over 30 years. She disappeared, coincidentally, on Friday the 13th of June, 1986. The interview for this episode will be with her sister, Melissa, who I believe lives in California. And she was about 3 years younger than Amanda. Amanda grew up in California, but she moved to Las Vegas. And this, by the way, this is the third time. This will be our third Las Vegas case after Jesse Foster and Chris Turner. And she had a roommate, and we're going to talk about him in a second. And she allegedly left the apartment, and she was going to go to her work. She was working at Taco Bell. She didn't have a car, so she was going to have to walk or get the bus or whatever. She was going to pick up her paycheck, and then she was headed to see her boyfriend, actually her ex-boyfriend. But they were still friends. They were still very close. And she was going to see him. Well, she never made it to her work to pick up her check, and she never made it to her ex-boyfriend's. I have had a chance to talk to the ex-boyfriend. His name is Xavier. I also was able to track down for Melissa. Melissa had been looking for this woman for actually quite a while, and since September, when I first met Melissa, I was able to track this woman down. This is the woman who was friends with Amanda in California, and then this woman, her name's Cammie, moved to Las Vegas, and then Amanda moved to Las Vegas to live with her, Cammie's husband, and Amanda lived with them for about a month before she got her own place. And then a couple months before she disappeared, she ended up having this roommate. And she was in Las Vegas for a total, she was like late October until June. So 8 months, something like that, 7 months. The issue with this case is that since Amanda disappeared in 1986, nobody has been able to track down her roommate. His name was Lew Frank, Lewfrank. Now, the reason this is a concern is because once Amanda's family found out that she was missing and went to Las Vegas, her stepfather met Lew Frank, and his first impression was that Lew Frank was an alien. And so he was an older guy, maybe like around the age I am now. Amanda was 20 years old. We've been able to find out how she and Lew Frank met. It turns out that he had put an ad in the Las Vegas Review-Journal looking for a roommate/housemaid. The other bizarre part about this is when Amanda's family met Lew Frank, he said something about he wanted to move to Elko, Nevada, and open a brothel because in certain counties in Nevada, prostitution is legal. But here they are asking about their missing daughter, and he wants to talk about opening a brothel. Lew Frank, Sherry, that way, yes. That's how his name looks, yes. So this episode is called The Ultimate Puzzle. And in my, of course, as you know, every episode I lead off with a little theme. That's the theme for this episode, The Ultimate Puzzle. It's what you might call a minimum information problem. The good news is that, once again, in talking to Cammie, I got to talk to Cammie, and I got to also talk to Amanda's stepfather, Tom, but her sister Melissa is actually the interview for this episode. Tom and Cammie actually got to meet Lew Frank way back in 1986. So you get to hear their impressions of him. They're not on the program. I just took some notes in talking to them. They got to meet him. They remember that the apartment was on East Charleston in Las Vegas. Tom thinks it was near a 7-Eleven. So this is a very confusing case. And it is believed that the police did interview Lew Frank back at that time in 1986. But, once again, was that his real name? I can tell you, I've looked in Las Vegas, Clark County marriage records, no record of Lew Frank. I've looked at the Nevada voter rolls, no record of Lew Frank. So that might lead to the idea that Lew Frank was an alias. He originally said he was from Georgia, the state of Georgia. He also said that he had a boat that he had out at the marina on Lake Mead. Cammie met Lew Frank once after Mandy disappeared the stepfather, Tom, met Lou Frank once after Amanda disappeared. Xavier, the boyfriend, never met him. And in fact, Amanda never told him that she was living with a guy. So you're going to hear all the information about, yes, that's right, Sherry, Nevada. You're going to hear a lot of information about him. And so the goal is we want to find this guy. Now, granted, if he was in his mid to late 40s then, he's in his late 70s now. So he could be dead by this time. But I want to see if between myself and all of you, the listeners, can we find this guy? Can we figure out who he was? Can we figure out if that was his real name or not? Census records, Carrie, that's a great idea. But the tough part is going to be if it actually is an alias, that's going to be tough. Now, the other issue is because of the notes that Tom, the stepfather, took back in 1986 after he was there, I actually have Lou Frank's phone number at the time in 1986. The problem is that I could get a lot of trouble if I release it publicly. All right, because that phone number I found out is currently being used by somebody else in Las Vegas. As you would expect, after 30-some years, maybe somebody would have the address. Shantana, unfortunately, we do not have an original address at this time. Tom, the stepfather, is working on that for me right now. So this is the issue. This is the problem. This is the ultimate puzzle. Can we track down this guy with this minimum amount of information that we have about him? Because I think if we find him, we can get a lot closer to figuring out what happened to Amanda that day. Sarah, no, I don't have the number. It's a 702 number. It is, of course, it's Southern Nevada 702 number, yes. But I'm not going, don't ask for it tonight. I'm not going to give it out tonight. All right, I can't do that. So that is the issue. It's a disappearance from Las Vegas, Friday the 13th of 1986. Amanda Fravel. She said she was going to go to her work to get her check and then go see her ex-boyfriend. She never got her check. She never saw her ex-boyfriend. She was known to hitchhike. She was known to take the bus. She was known to take taxis. She did not have a car. When the family got to her apartment a week later, and even Cammie, who went over there a couple days later, Amanda's stuff was there. And you have to understand that on June 14th, the next day, she was supposed to fly back to California to see her family. So some of her things were in the apartment packed up as if she was getting ready to go on this trip, a trip she never made. Lewis, that's a good question. It's written L-E-W, Lois, but we're really not sure. It could be L-O-U-I-S. It could be L-E-W-I-S. It's Lou Frank. And in the notes that I have that the stepfather took, it was written as L-E-W. But I can tell you, Tom can't specifically remember why he wrote it that way. Maybe he saw writing on something while he was in the apartment. He doesn't remember. Carrie says police should be able to subpoena a phone company for owner. You would think, but are they going to do that from a case from 1986? I don't know. There might be digitized phone records for 1986 for Lou Frank, Barbara says. That's possible too. So on Friday, when you hear the episode, you will hear the rules that I'm going to have for giving out that phone number, because here's what I don't want to do. I do not want to bother the woman who now has that phone number in Las Vegas, okay? Because we could all get, that could put us, that's not the kind of relationship I want to have with anybody who just happens to have a number we're looking at. There's no reason to tick this woman off and 20,000 people calling her to ask about her phone number. That would be wrong. Okay? April, I have the same idea. His name is probably more common like Frank Lewis. April, very possible. Very possible. So that's the, and like I said, I should also give credit to Megan Good from charlieproject.org. She is the one who introduced me to Melissa. and Melissa will be my interview. And this is, once again, a case that I've been talking to Melissa about since last September. The big deal at the time when she contacted me is she was trying to look for Cammie. She was not able to track her down. Luckily, just the way I know records from Nevada and things like that, I was able to track Tammy down. She was not trying to hide or anything like that. She just didn't know that anybody was looking for her. I've been able to talk to Cammie now. She was very forthcoming, very, very helpful. And she's also gotten to talk to Melissa too. So I'm glad that I could at least do that for Melissa since we started talking way back in September. Carrie, another Carrie. You're joining in a little late, Carrie, but you can check this out on YouTube later. So that's this week's case. Amanda Fravel from Las Vegas, 1986. The title of the episode, The Ultimate Puzzle. You can look that up. Get ready for Friday. I'm going to answer one more question before this episode is over. And that question comes from Stephanie. And that question is, are there questions that I avoid asking people? Guests. The simple answer is yes, I do. You have to understand that in my private conversations with these people, I find out about a lot of things that have nothing to do with the case. All right, just stray here, conversation strays there. And so there's that. Also, you should understand that, and I've explained this before, but I know we have a lot. I mean, the count is way up on people viewing this tonight. But for new people, the way it happens is I talk to people. I take notes. I do a little bit of my own reading. And then I will put together an interview outline and send it to the guest. They approve what we are going to talk about. They already know the order that we're going to talk about it. They know a lot of the questions that I'm going to ask. And these are just questions to guide the conversation. And I try to ask questions that I think all of you would if you could. And sometimes you do, being that a lot of the guests end up being in the private discussion group. You get to ask them yourself, and I think that's great. But in the context of the program, yes, there are family things that we avoid. The guest is in total control of the information. Okay, there are no gotcha questions or anything like that. The only thing I try to tell the guest is that the more thorough we can be, the more helpful it's going to be. All right, so we try to manage something between being very, very, very transparent and covering everything, and then maybe staying away from a couple things that might, once again, that have nothing to do with the disappearance, but might add some context to whatever the living situation is, whatever the financial situation is. I just try to tell them the more thorough we can be, the better. But ultimately, it's the guests who determine what we talk about. And any guest who's in here, I know Joyce Rivatuzo's in here, etc., they will tell you that. They will tell you that. I can tell you once in a while they worried about naming names and everything. We talk about that as well. So, but there are questions that come up in my initial interviews that I do not ask on an actual on-the-record interview. And once again, that's something that myself and the guest work out beforehand. So I hope that answers your question. And that was Stephanie that answered my question. The other thing that I think has come up is that, Kimberly, I think that I can invite you into the group. That's no problem. I'll take care of that as quickly as possible. No problem. If you're not in, are you on there already? I'll have to check that after that we're done here. But, sometimes, though, I've run into situations where some family members, they only want to talk about a certain part. I think I use this example all the time that at one time there was a family I was talking to, and all they wanted to do was talk about a government conspiracy, that the government was out to get this guy who disappeared. I'm willing to talk about that, but I also would have liked to have talked about how he and his ex-wife weren't getting along, and he had been cheating on her, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the last person this guy was seen with was his ex-wife's brother. Didn't want to talk about any of that. Well, that's something I can't do. It's something I can't do. So that was not, that was a case that I just had to bypass, and sometimes that happens. I also, the other standard is that I have to feel like my guest is ready to talk. And I have to make sure that talking about the case isn't going to be a traumatic experience for the person, because I'm not going to sensationalize their emotions. All right, I'm not going to, and I think that would be exploiting people, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to have somebody on the program who I think I'm going to actually do damage to by asking them the questions, that come up during an interview. And that has happened once as well. And I simply had to tell the person, I don't think that you're ready to talk about the disappearance. All right. Simply because when I would talk to this person, she would go off on all these tangents and kind of rant a little bit. And I just thought that if I have her on the program, she's probably not going to like the photo product. She's not going to like how she sounds. And it's probably even going to do more damage to, I thought, her fragile emotional nature that she already had. So that has come up as well. So, and that's something that I just have to take on a case-by-case basis. All right. So, Stephanie, that is where I kind of draw the line. I'll talk to anybody, but just sometimes the attitudes that some people take about things, I don't think that I'm going to be able to help them. And then there are other people who they just maybe aren't, they think they're ready, but after talking to them, I figure out they're not ready. And I worry about the after effects of doing the program, because a lot of my guests, I can't tell you how many, they do a great interview. They do a great job, as all my guests do. But then afterwards, a couple weeks later, they will tell me, we'll be on the phone or they'll email and they'll tell me, after I did the interview, I cried for an hour. That happens. So you can then understand why I really have to gauge a person's emotional strength before doing an interview. Okay, so there you go. But I think that's going to be the program. We've gone over an hour. So what do we talk about? Oh, there's Jill. You're just getting in now. Oh, Jill, we're just finishing up. You can catch it on YouTube here in a bit. But what we do was a big week for Unfound for a variety of reasons. It was also a little bit of a bad week given the download situation that we had on a multitude of apps. I'm going to say it again. If you have any issues, just go get the Podomatic app, and the thing should play there. The file should play there. No, if you're having problems with iTunes or whatever else. Talked about the alumni magazine, yada yada yada. A lot of new members in the group. Took a lot of questions from Trina, Angel, Shuri, Stephanie. Talked about the national news on the Mikhail Biggs case that I just, for some reason, I don't know why we missed it during that episode. I'm still trying to figure that out. Want to remind you, triblive.com this Sunday, the disappearance of Robert Allison from Pittsburgh in 1994, a very important case. Probably a forgotten case from the Pittsburgh area from back then. And then finally, this Friday, the ultimate puzzle, the disappearance of Amanda Fravel. You're going to hear a lot of information about a mysterious man known as Lou Frank. Let's see if we can track him down. That's all I got for you tonight. Thank you for tuning in. An hour and 10 minutes. And Becca, if you're still in here, contact me. I want to get that Thomas Brown episode to you in some way so you can listen to it. I apologize if you had problems. But I'm signing off for tonight. Favorite time of my week. Love talking to all of you. Thank you for making the time, all the new people who tuned in tonight. You will hear me on Friday, and then we'll get together a week minus an hour from now for the next Unfound live show. Good night, everyone. Thanks you for joining in. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the week. Goodbye.